Welcome to Cocktails and Conversations. This is your host, Doug Crowe, and we normally put on business leaders, authors, CEOs, and we've got a very unusual guest today who's actually a CEO of a company that focuses on construction management. So if you're in the construction field or real estate or want to find out about how to manage a project better, this is the guy to be listening to today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest today. He's a best-selling author. He's got a great course coming out on construction management. Jamil Soucar. Jamil, how are you today?
Hi, how are you?
Doing great, thank you. So construction is a pretty interesting industry. I've been in real estate myself for many years, but you deal at a very high level. Can you tell me how you got involved with it in the first place? And we'll get into your course and stuff in a minute. How'd you get involved and started out in construction?
Well, I graduated from engineering school back in 1983, and first thing I started with after college is construction, more than design.
Yeah.
So I've done some design in my career, but during my career, but construction was something I started with from college, and it developed into multiple positions and different types of projects because there's so many roles that are involved, from a site supervision to senior management.
Right. What was like one of your favorite projects that you ever worked on?
My favorite project that I've ever worked on was an overseas project, actually in Kuwait City for 2 years. I was working here in California, then I got a contract for 2 years. It was a big mall and a fish market and a community center and a gym and a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I really learned a lot about finishes like marble, where I had the opportunity of actually visiting the quarry, the mountain where they're cutting the marble from in multiple locations like Turkey, Spain, Italy. Wow. And then I visited the factory in Italy where they actually finished the marble and cut it to different pieces. So with that knowledge, I really enjoyed that project a lot.
Yeah. Now, when it comes to marble, it's funny you mention that. I remember reading somewhere that the cost of the marble is so small, but it's the cutting, mining, finishing, and shipping, which is really cost because it's so heavy. Was that right?
Well, that's true, and also the labor of the installation on the site.
Right. Yeah, very neat. Okay, so back to people here who are in construction. This is focused for you guys in construction. It could appeal to people doing a small project, like building a small one or a big one. What would be this in terms of your expertise? Would your book and your core stuff, would that help somebody who's dealing with a small project, or it would have to be like a big mall? Because not many people do malls.
No, actually, the principles I explain in my book will apply to any project because the issues are the same.
Yeah.
It could be more complex on a bigger project, but the issues are the same: contracts, change orders, requests for informations, and all the daily tasks that we handle in construction, in managing construction.
I know from my small experience doing rehab projects on properties, like a 1-unit building or a 10-unit building, there's so many moving parts with permits, with contractors, with release of liens, paying the subcontractors and paying their subcontractors. It's so easy to get in trouble on these things. Can you have any stories on a project that somebody thought they're doing things right and didn't go so well?
Well, that's a good question because the private sector, especially let's say home improvements.
Right.
By the way, I just got a claim request right now that I'm working on. Mostly because homeowners don't understand how to manage contractors. They don't understand the paperwork involved, like you said, the liens, etc. They get into trouble, and when there's conflict, their documentation is not proper, and the litigation, the next step.
Right.
On public works, it's more organized and structured, and the people handling the projects are more professionals hired by public owners. Same on the contractor side. So there, it's more documented. It's better documented. And of course, there's conflicts as well.
Yeah.
If you don't know what you're doing, whether you're a contractor or an owner, and you just start into a construction project, like you said, with the moving parts, you might find yourself in big legal trouble without noticing.
Right. Can you do any particular story that comes to mind when we talk about that? Maybe from a homeowner level or a small project.
All right. Yeah. Well, 2 years ago, I had a claim. Excuse me. I had a claim from a Bel Air homeowner who is suing his general contractor.
Okay.
And the homeowner was managing the work. The wife basically was running the
Yeah.
management of the work, and she was asking left and right additions, and the documentation wasn't very good. Payments wasn't very good. Decisions were taken of how to handle contractors' payments and change orders was not done properly. They ended up in a conflict, and the problem is sometimes the feelings are so heated up that they would want to go to litigation, they want to fight,
Yep.
and a $300,000 conflict ended up with 500,000 in legal fees alone,
Oh,
in
jeez.
arbitrations that never ended, and finally they settled. Most cases settle. Sometimes they settle after a fight. Yesterday, I got a request from a homeowner up in North California because the contractor left the job site and they were not doing very good work. And my advice to them was, listen, your contract is only $100 some thousand dollars. You're gonna pay $1,000 to fight a $10,000 dispute. I mean, I make
Yeah.
more money if you fight, that's fine, but I'm advising you settle and pay, even if
Yeah.
it's painful, and save your money. Sometimes the emotions are high. Nope, I have a principle and I am right and I'm going to collect. And sometimes, they settle. It happens.
Yeah. I remember talking to an attorney once who talked about litigation in general for civil suits. He said in his 12 years of experience, 12 years, hundreds of cases, he's not experienced one case where one person went away happy. Not once. He said the attorneys always make money, but no matter what,
Yes,
there's no such thing as, win, lose, or win-win. It's always lose-lose to some
both
degree.
sides lose.
Yeah.
And 95% of the cases settle out of court.
Right.
That means
Yeah.
they've spent all that money,
Yep.
depositions, witnesses, etc. I just handled also another case for Public Works, not probably a few months ago, and the general contractors decided to pay the subcontractor $200,000 and settle, although the subcontractor is totally at fault.
Ugh.
But the general said, you know what? I already spent so many hundred thousands on just the lawyers and depositions. If I
Right.
want to continue, I'm going to pay more. Let me just pay 200 and leave.
Wow.
It happens that, yeah.
That's awful. What are some people think they're doing the right job, right? I've got a contract, it's all written up. I've got segments of a contract all laid out. Hey, you complete this much, I'll pay you this much. It seems like it'd be pretty cut and dry, but I'm sure there's some things that are not obvious to people that come into play. So what would be one thing you could think about that's like, well, I didn't think about there. That's not an obvious thing I would have thought about when it comes to your checklists and processes.
Well, are you talking about the private homeowner
I'd like
or
to
public?
focus on the private homeowners right now because that's probably more of our audience. We could talk about public works as well, but
All right.
either one for your story is fine. Yeah.
All right. The problem with that, like I said, is that most homeowners are not knowledgeable enough to handle construction
Right.
and manage contractors. So they would not recognize that the contract that was given to them is proper, complete, adequate. It includes all the buzzwords in case there are problems.
Right.
They proceed on good faith, and the requests for work and information and additional work and deciding to pay or not to pay, it's so unprofessionally done because homeowners are not construction managers.
Right.
So when there's a conflict, they'll find themselves in a legal bind.
Right.
Like, for example, change orders, the contractor has to submit a change order to the owner. The owner has to sign it, approve it before the work starts. That's typically the case.
Right.
Many times they tell them proceed, and when it's time for payment, they disagree on the numbers or they disagree on the quality because either one was properly defined in the first place. Now, if the construction manager was involved, they would be advising the owner, no, wait a minute, don't sign this. I need this and this and this and this first identified and clarified, then you sign.
Right.
Something like this.
Yeah. One of the things I found interesting when I was doing some construction in the real estate world was that people don't realize that just because I pay the general contractor, I got to be watching about, I don't need to know who he's hiring because he might not pay his guys, and that subcontractor, even though I don't know who he is, he could put a lien on my property.
Exactly. And that's why there's a document called the 20-day preliminary notice, which is which is by the subcontractors or whoever is providing services to that house has to file that document, which goes to the owner. What that document says is that, hey, Mr. Owner, I am providing electrical subcontracting work to this general contractor. If he doesn't pay me, I have the right to file a lien against your property.
Yeah.
Now, before the owner pays the general contractor,
Right.
the proper practice is to get lien releases from all the subs to understand how much they're owed, and they better make sure these subs are paid before the general, so they don't get into these lien issues.
Yeah.
Most homeowners don't understand how to manage it. It's tricky.
Right.
And they find themselves either they paid the general and the general never paid the subs.
Yep.
They have a lien on the property. They don't know how to solve it. So all of this is because of their inexperience in managing construction.
Right. So even if you're rehabbing a house, even just an easy rehab, if that contractor hires one subcontractor, it could put your house in jeopardy. Is that right?
If the subcontractor files the lien,
Right.
That preliminary lien notice,
Right.
that's right.
Yeah.
They can.
Okay.
They put the lien, and they may foreclose on the lien and force you to sell the house.
Wow, that's scary stuff. What's the name of your book again?
Real Life Construction Management Guide from A to Z.
There we go. Get that. Is that available on Amazon, right? I think so.
Yes, and
Okay.
it has really good reviews on Amazon.
All right. Good deal. Okay, so public sector is also interesting me because there's a lot of big money going on there, and of course a lot of waste and stuff. So, do you have any good stories there of a thing that maybe impacted a whole community or a whole city when something went wrong?
You want me to talk about waste or something?
I don't know. I'm looking for some juicy story here. Whatever you think will be interesting.
Well, I'll tell you a simple idea, a simple story, which answers that question.
All right.
Public works, as you know, it means work funded by public money, like school districts,
Sure.
cities, etc. And it's more political oriented than a home improvement project.
Right.
A simple story would be, for example, I had a project and part of the scope was the exterior paint of the school. And the paint that was selected was blue.
Okay.
The homeowners around the neighborhood, they were up in arms, and we had a meeting. And in the meeting, they said, well, we don't like the color. This thing stands up like a big block in the middle of the neighborhood. It turned out that the art teacher selected the color, and we had the meeting, and the art teacher said, well, I blended with the neighborhood. And the neighbor said, which neighborhood are you blending with? There's no blue anywhere. And something like this might get political because the neighborhood would call the board. The board would call the people under them managing the projects. It becomes a political issue because an elected board member just got involved.
Right.
So we ended up paying the contractor $60,000 a change order to repaint the whole thing, and it generated a new procedure of how to select colors. That's only one example.
More paperwork. Give me another one.
Because it just still irks me up till today.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to name names. When I started my post as a construction manager for a public owner, they gave me about 32 paving projects, which is paving the asphalt paving for the playground.
Okay.
And they called those year one projects. Now, guess what year two projects were? They were to trench the asphalt and put underground conduits. So,
Wait, just think about that. Okay, so year one, pave it. Year two, dig it up and put something underneath it.
Yes, it is. So I said, hey, and I was starting new. I said, hey, why are we paving today and then trenching tomorrow? Why can't we get these conduits from year two, put them in this year's project?
Right.
I tell you, it took me 6 months of meetings and dialogue, and I could not get this point through. And I ended up saying, okay, you know what? Just pave it. What do I do? So because there was promises made to the community about the pavement.
Yeah.
So it became a political issue. So political issues sometimes in public works supersede common sense and saving waste or proper management. It happens. In public works, I face that all the time.
Right. Back to the homeowners. It's obviously once if you think about paperwork, contracts, and all that, that seems pretty clear and linear. But what about quality? What if somebody does a tile installation and you just don't like the way the tiles are laid, and the contractor says that's standard quality? How do you dispute or manage a quality issue, which is so subjective?
Exactly. There are a zillion what they call construction defect cases just because of what you just said.
Yeah.
The tile is defective. The contractor is saying, "What do you mean it's defective? It's properly installed. I don't like the way it's installed. I don't like the colors." Well, didn't you? No one talked about these things before they started. For example, an educated homeowner that wants to do tile in his bathroom, for example, or bathroom, I would say meet with the tile contractor, talk about layout,
Right.
the grout lines, where the termination, the color, get all of that clear. Maybe you do a mock-up, maybe do one line of tiles to see that the joints are okay. But homeowners that don't understand construction,
Right.
they just say, yeah, go ahead and proceed. And then when they don't like the work, they call it defective. Now, defective, like you said, is relevant. It could be really defective. I mean, any other contractor can come in and say this is defective tile work, or the owner thinks it's defective because he didn't like it or she didn't like it.
Yeah.
And so they go into litigation because of that. And then you have an expert like me or somebody else come in to say, no, this is per industry standard, or this is defective, but they're paying money.
Yeah. Yeah. So as a clue for you folks, when you're doing any construction project, you can't be too detail oriented, right? You can always go down to doing a sample grout line. How thick do you want your grout line, right? I mean, obviously selecting colors is pretty obvious. This is the color I want to use. Use a paint swatch, paint it the wall, see how it looks. But like the way it's installed, cabinets, how much of a joint is acceptable in a corner trim joint? I mean, it should be 0, 0.1 millimeter. I don't know. I mean, there's got to be some standards there. So,
well, you want to hear a funny story?
Yeah, yeah.
So I was a superintendent at a house project long time ago, up here in Pacific Palisades.
Yeah.
And the homeowners kept asking for changes. And for them, they don't understand that changes is money.
Yeah.
Oh, move the cabinet from here to here. Take out that door. I don't like it here. Move it this way. I don't like this color. Change it. Well, all of this was done, and they don't understand that this is all change order extra work. Clint Eastwood's famous quote, "Go ahead, make my day."
Yeah, right.
Right. So I got the Clint Eastwood poster with the gun pointed, and he says, "Go ahead, make one more change."
Did they know they're being charged every time they made a change?
Well, I explained to them every time, hey, you know what, we'll move it for you, but the framer is going to ask for more money.
Yeah, right.
Okay, no problem, move it. I mean, that was a good owner in that example. But in some cases, they would take the position, well, I didn't tell you to put it there in the first place. It's not on the plans. Nobody defined it. They told them to proceed. So they did not talk about the details.
Right.
And and for homeowners, it's emotional.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely.
And I can tell you that from my experience renovating my own home when I bought it.
Yeah.
And I'm in the construction business, and I manage construction every day. But because it's your home, it's different. So I told my wife, you know what? Among all the projects I'm managing, this is the worst project.
Oh, gosh. How exciting is that? The book is called Real to Life Construction. What's it called again? Real Life
Construction Management Guide from A to Z.
Real Life Construction Management Guide from A to Z. Get this book on Amazon, folks. It's a winner. It can really help you save yourself time, money, and most importantly, headaches and lawsuits and all that jazz. So check it out on Amazon. He's got a great course coming out. If you're in a construction manager as a career, it's a great course coming out. It'll be available on his website very soon. Jamil, thank you so much for coming today. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
You bet.